there's 4 components to it. The tasty soup or liquid that is like concentrated chicken soup, the yolk, the embryo, and the white or rubbery albumin.
So if we could put it on.
Yeah, slide 3. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. In the Philippines, where balut has existed for centuries, it is sold in street corners, stores, transportation hubs, and by vendors who signal their wares with a distinctive call, balut. It is eaten by people of all ages as an energy booster for the sick, as calcium-rich food for pregnant women, and recommended for students as brain food. It is also enjoyed as an appetizer or pulutan during inuman or drinking sessions, and thought to be an aphrodisiac for men only. It is eaten by itself and can sometimes be folded into dishes. Balut has been described as popular in the Philippines as hot dogs in the US, but there are class distinctions, and not everyone eats it. It is a cheap source of protein in a country that has a high poverty rate. Let me switch to my slides. So my field work involved participant observation of festivals such as Pistahan Filipino American Festival in San Francisco, interviews with balut eating contestants, and vendors at farmers markets, Filipino community members, as well as a duck farmer. In the US, where there is an estimated 4.1 million Filipino Americans, balut is not so much a street food as it is a special food eaten during parties, in restaurants, heritage festivals. It is sold in Asian grocery stores, flea markets, and farmers markets to Filipinos and non-Filipinos alike. It has become popular as the quote, natural Viagra, and is marketed also as a cure for headaches, according to a Mexican American store owner that I interviewed, which is Cayetano Arajao. He's at the San Jose flea market. So in the US, where more protein choices are available, balut is eaten more for enjoyment rather than nourishment. It's a specialty item in certain Filipino restaurants, and its consumption has become part of the entertainment to lure both Filipino Americans and non-Filipinos alike. Folklorist Michael Owen Jones stated that eating, quote, reproduces identity as well as constructs it, unquote. So what identity is being produced or created when balut is eaten? For many Filipino Americans who may have only heard of balut on TV or online, seeing balut and eating it for the first time in a festival becomes an opportunity to prove that one is a true Filipino. So I'm going to show you a snippet of the next slide here. This is the Speedy Balut contest in Maui, Hawaii. It's part of the Phil-Am Heritage Celebration each October since 2010. So in this clip, the music being played is the Black Eyed Peas hit song Bebot, which celebrated band member Apple Diab's Filipino background. The choice of music and the rules combine to create a contest that affirms culinary nationalism when food is being used to construct national identities.
Ready? Yeah. People, you ready? Yeah. Let's say tatlo. You guys go. Isa, dalawa, tatlo, go. Oh, hello.
So that was a little bit of it. Let me finish up just a few seconds.
Ready? Yeah. People, you ready? Yeah. Let's say tatlo. You guys go. Isa, dalawa, tatlo, go. Oh, hello, hello. Oh, bebo, 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 yeah, bebo, bebo, eat it up, bebo, 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 come on, bebo, bebo, come on, bebo, bebo, eat it up, go, bebo, 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 ikaw ay Filipino, 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 here we go now, boy.
So that is just a little bit of In the US, eating the balut has become an act that brings together Filipino Americans to build community and affirm a collective identity with other Filipino Americans. The New York Balut eating contest drew a lot of publicity to Jeepney and what was the Maharlika restaurant. Here's restaurant owner Nicole Fonseca framing the contest as a way for Filipino Americans to remember where they came from and celebrate their culture despite regional differences. Me go on to the next slide. For some reason, I'm having difficulty doing the next slide.
And about
The next slide. So in this next one, Nicole Fonseca is framing it in a certain way, and I just wanted you to take a quick listen.
Click on the image.
This is the next one. We are on the slide. The next one. Maybe we escape.
Zoom down. Yes.
Yes. Oh,
There we go.
We fast forwarded. That was the previous one. The last one. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we play that. Let's see if we can play this. This one? Yeah.
Barrio fiestas. Barrio fiestas is an excuse to come together to eat lechon or our foods from our provinces. And we're all from all these different countries, cities, and in the Philippines, from Pagutput all the way down to Panglao. And all of our recipes are so different, but what we have in common is our bloodline, our history, our hard work that brought us here, and even these little things coming together and enjoying Balut is just our way of saying we appreciate our culture and we don't forget what we
So held during festivals, Balut eating contests demonstrate comunitas, where those present feel that they are part of a group, sharing commonalities with one another. So taking the concept of liminality from folklorist Arnold van Gennep, who wrote about the rites of passage, separation, transition, and incorporation, Victor Turner described the comunitas that occurs in festivals. So festivals take place in a period of liminal time where society is unstructured and individuals who experience communitas together become more like equals. In the case of Balut eating contests, it functions as a leveling stage where people enter it as separated individuals and leave as part of a community of Filipino citizens. But to eat Balut, one can expand that locality to the elsewhere. Those who partake can become part of a, quote, imagined community, unquote. The imagined community in the diaspora is helped by the fact that Balut has the power to authenticate the eater even if eaten anywhere in the world. It has the ability to make the eater feel Filipino or obtain honorary citizenship via the act of eating it. Such a practice as eating Balut can help create a sense of locality and bring one home for those able to maintain their native dietary habits. It is a return to the motherland via consumption. In the last 2 decades since Balut was first featured in Fear Factor, the corresponding effect seems to be that Balut eating has become a popular contest in public festivals like the Pistahan in San Francisco and the Hester Street Fair in New York. There's Balut eating contests in Houston, Texas, and in Maui, Hawaii, even in New Jersey, from what I heard. So Balut has come out in the open to be celebrated and displayed for all the world to see. So why is balut chosen to be the subject of eating contests? After all, there are other foods that could have been selected. Why balut, described by a New York Times article as a Franken food? I submit that balut is a featured food because it can provoke a reaction, act as a lightning rod, and is a touchstone of the current social, political, and economic context that is experienced by Filipino Americans. One of my interviewees labeled balut's draw as a curiosity factor. It may have been traditionally eaten in the privacy of one's home, with the close friends, or in drinking get-togethers, but now in the US, it is being eaten in the open with spectators. The contest can be seen as a performance that uses the marker of food to construct identity as Filipinos in America via the outing of a once private insider food. I theorize that the popularity of such contests is connected to the rise of Filipino nationalist sentiments and resistance against the denigration of the food in the Western media and in social media. Because of its appearance, the very presence of balut allows the performance to emerge. It can be a performance of identity or gender. If eaten as an aphrodisiac, it can be seen as a performance of masculinity. When balut is eaten as an aphrodisiac, the majority of my interviewees emphasize that it is for men only and never for the women. It doesn't have the same effects. So you could say that it is an example of a hegemonic masculinity and does not allow for any other alternative scripts or ways of being. Whether one is performing gender or demonstrating culinary nationalism, balut contests have become a space for some Filipino Americans to negotiate belonging. Here are a couple of pictures of contestants performing identity as Filipinos. So you have in the middle that Sergio Reyes. He's a Mexican American, and he actually joined the contest, and finally one year he won it. But it's interesting to me how he's the only one that's not wearing a Filipino shirt. So the next slide is Romeo. He won the contest for 7 years in a row, and it was so interesting because he had several caps on, and as he got to the final run, he kept removing his hat. So then it said Filipino, you remove it, and then it became the flag, and then the last one was champion. So I thought, wow, he really is a champion. And he has one arm. So when he's eating the egg, he's eating it with one arm and eating it complete with shells and all. There's hardly any mess.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
No, the
whole egg.
he doesn't crack it at all.
He cracks it
Like
with
an apple.
one hand and eats it like that.
Like an apple.
Kind of, I guess, yeah. So Filipino Americans, like other Asian American groups, suffered from exclusion laws and are rendered invisible in mainstream American life for the most part. They blend in with their ability to speak English and familiarity with American culture as a former colony of the US. Balut contests are a way for them to be finally heard and seen in their adopted homeland. They can be noticed and situated among other immigrant groups, as well as participate in one of the hallmarks of American culture, eating contests during a fair, which is arguably an American phenomenon. That balut has become a symbol of the new Filipino movement, a new visibility for the second biggest Asian American group in the US, was demonstrated by PJ Quesada, MC of Pistahan's 2017 Balut eating contest. Shortly before the contest started, he challenged a mixed audience of non-Filipinos and Filipinos alike to take a more active role in promoting the culture. He described balut as a tool of oppression when it was featured in Fear Factor, and I hope that we can listen to this right here. Probably died already. I don't know if it died already. I'll just read it. But basically he said, we don't take American food like chitlins and then put it on Fear Factor. It's not fair. What they did is use that food as an example of what Filipinos are like. I just want to point out my objection to that idea, because Filipinos are awesome and we eat balut because it's damn good, right? Tell them no, you just don't have a developed palate. And then take them under your wing. Teach them how to eat it. Can you do it for Filipino culture? Can you do it for your kids? So his remarks reveal that negative attention to the delicacy is being seen as an assault on Filipino heritage and culture, not just an attack on the food itself. There is tension between the way that balut eating has been marketed by Filipino Americans and how it is portrayed as a strange, weird food in Western traditional and social media. Filipino American scholars have examined the devaluation of Filipino food, beginning in colonial times. American reformers pushed processed foods and vilified native foods in the Philippines. And when early Filipino migrants arrived in the 1920s and 1930s America, this continued when their foodways was portrayed as barbaric. In the years before World War II, an estimated 150,000 Filipinos had already arrived in the US. They were excluded from the New Deal, so to cope with the Depression, many Filipinos lived together in cramped spaces to share living and food expenses, eating whatever food they could get from the canneries or campos. Their diet included the tails, feet, and necks of pigs, as well as wild vegetables and salmon illegally caught in the Delta. The media painted Filipinos in America as squalid with an uncivilized standard of eating. The treatment they endured can be seen as a form of cultural imperialism, where the colonized Filipino people's cultural practices and foodways were subjugated in favor of Western practices and beliefs. Food has long been used by folk groups to construct and denote identity, but it is usually the community who selects the types of food to reveal those aspects of that group's identity to the public, while other foods are kept within the community. When balut was first featured on mainstream TV in 2002, there was no attempt to place it in context. Other appearances followed in shows like Amazing Race, Hell's Kitchen, No Reservations, and Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmern. The last two shows in particular used balut as a way to shore up the host's savvy reputation of eating every food possible as a lure to hook in viewers. Balut's multiple appearances over many seasons of Survivor may well be the most famous. For example, in 2004, Balut appeared in the 10th season, shot in Palau. In the 26th season, Survivor Caramoan, Fans versus Favorites, was filmed in the secluded Caramoan Islands. Balut was featured as the first of the individual immunity challenges that contestants had to face. Now, Balut's appearance in this 26th season of Survivor also offers viewers a chance to reminisce about the previous appearances of Balut in the show, aiding in the formation of a tradition where the food is associated with disgust. Describing his experience in Caramoan, contestant Matthew Freeberg shared that, quote, competing in a food eating challenge on Survivor is pretty cool for a fan of the show. It's one of those original challenges, and participating makes you feel connected, if only via disgust, to old school legends. In the case of Balut, when it appeared in Fear Factor and subsequent other shows like Survivor, the Filipino American community had no say over how they wished to represent a food associated with their culture. The manipulation of Balut to be a disgusting appeal to lure in viewers can be seen in this next slide. In an image of a broken embryonic egg surrounded by its liquid on a wooden platter in Survivor's Twitter feed, the producers didn't care about a more accurate or nuanced portrayal, as shock value in reality TV is what sells. The consumer who survives eating the egg gets more than just bragging rights. One can pretend to be like reality TV stars by garnering social and cultural capital that can turn to economic capital via the number of clicks that can be turned to monetize subscribers. This is increasingly found in American pop culture and society, where outrageousness is harnessed for economic and cultural capital by people of all types. In this climate, Balut, seen as an extreme food by many, was the one that was showcased. The grand introduction of Filipino food in the beginning of the 21st century became the stereotypical first impression that many had about Filipino cuisine. So this denigration of the food continues. The complex feelings of hiya or embarrassment that Filipinos feel over foods such as balut is worsened each time they see balut portrayed in a negative light in some TV show or YouTube video. There's one show that has garnered over 10 million likes that features balut as a lure to be this disgusting object. The second reaction is what is expected by both the audience and also the performer. With absent cultural context, vulgarity and crassness are typically demonstrated. This performance of disgust, as articulated by past reality TV and online videos, have painted a sensationalized picture of this food as bizarre, weird, and awful, creating what I call a canon of disgust. This canon owes its conceptualizing to the historical tradition of portraying foods of the other in an exoticized light. This canon of disgust is continually fed by the monetized online productions and ironically by even the eating contests in festivals, which uses the curiosity factor to attract people to watch the contest. However, in contrast to the westernized balut eating challenges on TV and online, the balut eating contest and Filipino festivals result not in pure capitalism, but a more nuanced introduction to Filipino culture. Such events as balut eating contests provide Filipino Americans pleasure and agency to propagate selected cultural practices and defy the mainstream stigmatism of their culture and cuisine. To consume balut then in eating contests can be seen as a way to fight back and own the food rather than be embarrassed or apologize for it, not wishing to sentimentalize resistance. I believe that the preparation and consumption of one's traditional foods can be seen as a kind of resistance against the colonizer. As for those viral videos, one can flip the script and say bite by bite. Balut may be seen as re-educating and training Western palates to try new foodways. Although most of the reactions has been one of disgust, there are spaces for other reactions and realizations that balut has a lot more going for it than others are willing to admit. Balut is just waiting for a proper introduction, not least of it a recognition from the paleo and keto crowd that it is in many ways the perfect food. Thank you.
Questions?
Margaret, there's a couple.
Hi, yes.
Is there somewhere you can get balut in Philadelphia?
Yes, there's a duck factory in New Jersey. I can show you through it. Yeah. Fresh, you have to get it fresh. When it's old, there's no more soup. And you can get it at Asian stores too, at I want to say Oriental stores, but Asian. Yes.
I was just gonna ask the same thing because I wanted to try it.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you can try it. Yes, I will give you the local sources.
Is there anywhere in Philadelphia?
That's what she was.
Yeah, I think that there's, you should also ask the Filipino restaurants like Cocina and something they'll be able to tell you. That'll probably be the fastest. And sometimes it's featured in a hidden menu, like a secret menu. Say, oh, I want to have some balut. You guys have it or what? And they will have it.
That makes sense.
Anybody else?
Do you have a family feeling about it or association from your family in your times?
A family story I can share with you.
If you like.
My mom, she is someone who grew up in an era where American food, European food is usually valued, but she was a fabulous cook, so she cooked a lot of Spanish influenced dishes in the evening. I never saw her once eat balut from the streets. However, when we traveled to the Philippines for the last time, which I didn't know was going to be my last time with her, we were invited to a party and they brought balut in.
And I watched with surprise as she consumed not one, not two, but 3 balut, smiling and laughing all the way. And I said, Mom, you're gonna have indigestion. She didn't care. And everybody around her was just, really happy. It was like later, after I had a chance to think about it, it was her way of coming back and a way of people incorporating her back into the, motherland. And it was certainly a visceral, physical act to consume it in the motherland with all her loved ones around her. So
Maybe it was something more common in her childhood before she.
perhaps, yeah, I know that it was found mostly in Luzon before, and now it's all over the Philippines. So it's
Someone else, I just want to ask, is it something you would normally put a little salt on it?
yes,
To season it a
absolutely.
bit?
Salt is the preferred condiment.
Yeah.
And in other Southeast Asian nations, you can eat it like in Vietnam with a herb called rau rang. It kind of tastes like mint. I tasted it. And a lot of people eat it with vinegar also and with hot sauce. It's really good with hot sauce. And you eat it in like 2 or 3 bites. You're not gonna like linger over it, take it apart. It's like a hard-boiled egg. You're not gonna like, necessarily eat it slowly.
And can you put the chat up too? There's a question on chat. I don't know, can we get the chat on, yeah.
Oh, thank you for the question.
Yeah, I know someone else has a question in the back. Yeah, go ahead. While we get the chat up, go ahead.
I know you mentioned studying the Filipino diaspora in Italy, and when I went to Italy, I was really surprised to get the album everywhere. I don't know, it was very weird. Do you know, like what the European opinion on the book is, or like
The opinion of the European opinion, that's a good one. I would say I didn't have a chance to interview Italians about what they felt about Balut, but I can tell you where Filipino women sell it. Every Thursday and on Sunday, the whole Termini station is transformed into a Philippine market. But it's illegal to sell foods without a license, so when you pass people by, they're opening their bags and they're saying, I got some here. Right? Yeah. And I don't know if it's changed, but also in many piazzas, small piazzas and underneath bridges, they set up food vendors there for Filipinos who want to taste a little bit of home, and they would call you and say, hey, do you want? That's the kind of thing. Maybe it's hidden, right? So Italians most probably are not going to accept that.
Can we get the chat up?
Can we read it from here?
Sure.
Yeah, it said, is Balut eaten by itself?
Can you repeat the question?
Okay,
Companion
one
food.
of the questions from Kit Kohler, is balut eaten by itself or with companion food? That's a great question. It's a snack, so usually it's eaten on the go when you're like that liminal phase between lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
But it's also eaten in drinking sessions as a party type food, as an appetizer. So you're gonna have, crispy chicharron, you're gonna have balut on one side, and you're gonna have peanuts on one side, and then maybe some beers. And then thank you for that question. Yes, Edward.
Well, thank you for this great talk. As I understand it, balut originated in the Philippines and then has migrated to the United States. Have there been changes in how it's prepared or in any other of its characteristics in that migration? Has it left its homeland and now is featured in regions across the United States?
Great question. No. It's just boiled and eaten, and the way that's changed is the way that it's eaten outside in the public in these balut eating festivals, and how that tradition is passed on to other people who may not have had the chance to do it here in the US. That has what's changed, because in the Philippines, they're not gonna have those concepts. People are eating it, right? And that's why I think that balut has this authenticating factor. It manages to incorporate someone eating it into this, honorary citizenship status. It's because it's so identified, right, with what the practice is in the Philippines, because it hasn't really changed. It is what it is. You can hide it in a pie, or you can boil it as adobo, but it's still basically eating a baby chick. So that has this power to authenticate people, the consumer. Thank you. Yes.
So I may have missed something, but, so you said the feathers are still there and you can see them on that
Very,
picture. So are they just not fully developed that you can eat the whole thing?
It's just 17 days, barely any. So you eat the whole thing.
So it's not like eating,
No,
you know,
No,
something
it's not
stiff
like
and,
it's, yeah, but like I said, other cultures have eaten older, so.
Yeah.
In the Philippines, there's this vendor consumer relationship, we call it the suki system. So if you know the vendor, they're gonna give you the freshest, right? But if you're passing through on your way and you're just hungry and you pick a vendor you don't know, unlucky you, they might be selling you something that's been old, that's been growing, right? So you're gonna get something that's really matured, and that's like violation of trust there, but you never had that relationship in the first place. So there's a whole other kind of belief system practice and consumer consumption practices around it, which just makes it a really perfect food to just, talk about different aspects of the culture. Anybody else?
So thank you for this. I really appreciate the opportunity to learn more about Balut. I'm excited to try some soon, I hope. I'm curious if you can speak a little bit more about Balut and gender, because I think it's very interesting, the hegemonic masculinity that gets reinforced through the Balut eating contest, but then this lovely story you're telling of your mom eating it. So are there like certain ideas or stories that circulate when women eat Balut?
So I interviewed about, I'd say, over 20 people, and online I did a survey. And so that I'm drawing from that, right? And women understand that they tend to use it when someone is ill or not feeling good and they need energy. And they also give it to their kids when the kid's is growing, so that the child has a lot of protein in him. Because in a duck egg, especially if it's already fertilized, there's more nutrients in the egg, right? So your question is, do they think it's an aphrodisiac for them, perhaps? Is there?
Well, if there's like any kind of stories about like, are men should be eating balloons, or you think differently of a woman who's participating in that balloon?
No, yeah, that's a great question, but in all the things I found in all the interviews, they always tell me that the balut is pampalakas ng tuhod. That's a saying. It means literally, it strengthens the knees. And the knees they're talking about is not women's knees, they're talking about men's knees. Okay, and you can even do a spin on that, a Freudian spin if you want. But just to say it like that, yeah. But it is definitely a food for people who need, it's like, it was called a power bar for somebody that I interviewed. It's so the context is what changes it, right? The more it is eaten at night with people around you, that's, men and lots of wine, or not wine, but the hard liquor, right? The beer, the different types of appetizer. That context is definitely going to be different than when a student's eating it on the way home. So it has the ability to transform itself depending on the situation. And it's really, a lot of foods are.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Other questions?
Yeah, so hello, thanks for sharing all this. So I know that, so I'm curious to hear more about like the balut in class that you were talking about and how it relates to class, because you're saying how like some people don't eat it, it's like certain people eat it. So I know like in the Philippines, it was cheap, when I grew up there, and it was cheap, and then I came here and it's quite expensive, at least where I, like in Florida, like it's quite expensive. And so I guess like, did you find similar differences in the price of it and how it related to like who ate it and who got to eat it?
How much is it in Florida?
Oh, like $2
Per egg?
I think so, 2 or 3. But in the Philippines, it's like 20 pesos.
Yeah.
Which is like,
33 cents,
yeah,
right? Or even less than that. And here I've seen it priced as high as $5 a meg. That's not unusual. I saw also a menu for $6 a meg.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that there's class distinctions. In the US, it's like everybody seems to want to try it in terms of it didn't matter, college students, people or any kind of class. I don't really see difference, but I think in the Philippines, because it is a street food, it's the lower socioeconomic classes, those who are getting by with just protein to eat and to nourish themselves. That's why I said the main difference is it's eaten as nourishment, and here it's eaten as entertainment sometimes, or even just as pleasure, or just something that's extra. Because we've got so much protein sources, we're so fortunate to have that capability of choosing something that we can eat, right? But there's only often just limited choice, right?
There's also a question. We have a question, and then there's one online too.
Okay.
So my other question is, like, I'm thinking about there's bones or bone development in the chip. So is that like, is it also high in calcium?
Yes.
So that would be good for, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's what they say you should eat that too. And I had a slide showing the nutrient factor, but yes, it is higher in many nutrition facts than the regular. And what is
There's a question online.
any creation story or supernatural story that features Balut? That was why I wrote it. So as you can imagine, thank you for that question, Theodore. As you can imagine, Balut, because of its appearance, it lends itself easily to the beliefs, legends in the Philippines, right? So one aspect of it that a few of my interviewees mentioned is that in the Philippines, if you want to become a certain type of creature called an aswang, that's something that aswang people eat. So sometimes one of the taunts that kids do to one another is they see a kid eating balut, they'll say, "Oh, you're aswang, yeah, right?" That kind of thing. It has translated over here because I was in a Filipino store and this woman cut in line in front of me, and someone said, "Aswang." Right? So if anyone could say, that situation, it's like, likening that person's rude, foolish behavior to a supernatural creature with, now, the aswang actually feeds on entrails, according to the legend. It's been featured in, some TV shows. It's also known as the manananggal, but it likes to prey on the very young, as well as the pregnant women, and they supposedly eat the entrails. But I get to another topic, I digress. That's actually what I talk about in my book, in the chapter that I say that it's like there's this powerful women called the Babaylan. So when the Spanish arrived, they saw that the Babaylan women had influence over the villagers in the community, and they had the power to decide and make decisions when to go to war. They had the utmost power, and they were medicine women. So when the Spanish arrived, they were resisting the Spanish, and the first thing the Spanish did was, we're going to take the power away. And one of the ways they did that is they inverted it, right? There's been Filipino folklorist, Herminia Menyes Colbert talks about it. They inverted the powerful Babaylan, and they made every single gift that they were giving to the community, they bastardized it in the form of aswang, saying aswang takes away life. Aswang, instead of giving birth like a midwife, the Babaylan women would do, and aswang takes away life. Aswang looks bad, smells bad, even though the shamanesses were always smelling good and everything. The egg was used, I believe, as part of that because the people ate that egg before, right? And theorizing it. Anybody who's associated to eating a pre-colonial food is labeled as this.
I think we have one last question.
any other Filipino food or significance like Balut? Would you be writing future book about it?
Can you read the question again?
Is there any other Filipino food with cultural significance like balut? And will you be writing any future book about it?
Please, please.
Maybe a reader, as I was mentioning to Farida. Certainly, what I find interesting is any food that has pre-colonial significance that has changed the meaning over the time. And I'm also interested in colonial foods that have been taken to the Philippines and has changed how it's used by Filipinos and also Filipinos in the diaspora. So one of those instances is I thought was a great topic, and I wrote a paper on queso de bola. So that's something that we obtain. The ball of cheese is made in Edam in Holland, and it's always has to be there every Christmas to be eaten with the pandesal and with ham. So I traced the way that that's come over from Holland, and they make it specifically for Filipinos. They put it in a special black wax, and they market it specifically. So it's a little bit saltier than the regular type of feta cheese. But they know their market. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, friends online.